Welcome back for another strategy video on Clans of Caledonia. My name is Ollie Helm. This is it, the last game commentary of the series as I play Clan Fergusson. Throughout the series, I have tried to show the more recent games that I've played against really strong opponents so that no one can say that the strategy only works against weak players, but not strong ones. Unfortunately for Fergusson, I don't have any recent games against really strong players, so I'm going back to an older game against two strong opponents.
Clans Fergusson, McEwen, and Buchanan are on offer. There are 3 good starting ports on the board with the £10 basic goods and reuse ports available. That's great for Fergusson, who gets 3 starting workers, but it is not certain that all 3 ports will be available as these starting spots may be taken by the other 2 clans. Then again, maybe not. McEwen has fantastic ports to work with and will likely take the basic and £10 ports, while I would expect Buchanan to go for the £10 and reuse ports to get the money. Regarding contracts, there's a really good contract for first player with the 1 bread, 1 cheese, 1 whiskey contract. The 4 cotton contract, although quite expensive, is a really nice one too, given the cash that it returns. Interestingly, if we look at the contract rankings for McEwen, there are 4 good contracts on the board. The rankings changed because McEwen uses the hops for cash, so that substantially increases the value of contracts like the 1 wool, 1 bread, 1 whiskey contract. Along with the basic goods port, that makes McEwen a pretty decent clan in this game setup. For glory tiles, I always like it when the round 5 glories for export goods. That means there'll be a lot of glory in this round. Actually, given that the glory for the round 4 are edge tiles and for round 3 are workers, I expect there to be a lot of glory scored in this game. Over 55 points just for the last 3 rounds.
Does it affect the quality of any of the 3 clans? The edge glory may advantage Fergusson because they start with 3 workers on edge tiles to begin the game, and therefore will have an easier time of getting to other neighboring edge tiles. Meanwhile, if I look into my database of games, on average, when I play Fergusson, I get 4 more units down per game compared to Buchanan, and 2 units compared to McEwen. So let's say that translates into a 3-point advantage in this game for 2 extra edge tiles.
One other advantage Fergusson has relates to the board layout. For example, if McEwen places next to the £10 and basic goods ports, then they risk being pinned in on the right side of the board. Having a 3rd starting worker means Fergusson can place on the opposite side of the board and potentially have lots of cheap open spaces to expand to. So, I really like Fergusson in this game, followed by McEwen. Being first player as Fergusson means getting a great starting contract and choice of first starting worker. I will probably bid up to about 20 for the privilege of being first. I took Fergusson at 21. Surprisingly, Buchanan was taken second. I laid out the argument for McEwen already, so for Buchanan, their advantage is all about contracts. The 6 remaining contracts are only average, and therefore relatively costly to complete. Plus, there is no port that easily gives Buchanan more contracts, so I'm not a big fan of Buchanan here. On to worker placement. These are the 3 ports I would like to be next to, so these are the hexes that I am looking at. The £10 port is the most important one for me, but the basic port is the one that I may miss out on if I don't claim one of these spots first. So, the question is, will the £10 port still be available after Buchanan and McEwen play their workers? This hex also has the advantage of getting glory twice, once for the 5-6 glory tile, and once as an edge tile. I really like these hexes because for an extra cost of £4, I get 3.5 points. In addition, I can claim all these relatively cheap edge hexes, and so that is my first choice. McEwen's worker placements are great. Placing on this minor 3 hex gives room to expand and blocks a potential spot that I can play on. Placing on this forest 2 hex also gives room for expansion. It costs £3 to use the reuse port, so if they use it for the £10 port, then the net benefit is effectively the same as placing on this minor 1 hex and spending an extra £3 to place on the 4 hex to access the port. Buchanan took the other spot next to the basic port, so on to plan B then. I've still got the minor 1 hex next to the reuse port, and for my last worker, I can now place it to gain access to all the open space in this area of the board. Round 1. There are a lot of edge tile 1 hexes that I can reach, so initially I will go to the ports and build out the edge tiles. I also want to go to the central lock on these cheap hexes to control the center of the board. Lots to do! Buchanan's choice of 2 contracts at once is curious. I'm not sure that the second contract was worth foregoing the extra £5 they would have received waiting a second turn. McEwen would likely have taken the 4-hop contract, but I don't think the remaining contracts are that much worse, so maybe it was a defensive move against McEwen. Placing the cow was not part of my initial plan, so I am being opportunistic. The cow gives me access to an edge minor 1 hex, and I no longer need to go on the more expensive 3 hex to get to the port. My second cow placement is also opportunistic, as it blocks easy access for McEwen to get to the central lock, and gives me that access instead, which will be important for connecting my settlements later in the game. I had a really good round in placing 6 workers down, and I managed to produce 2 processed goods to earn 3 glory points. I've already secured several edge tiles, and I'm almost at the central lock. Looking at clan benefits for the round, McEwen earned £0, as did Buchanan, since they took 2 contracts at the same time to forego the extra £5 of income. Fergusson's benefit is more difficult to calculate. They start with 2 lock shipping, so that is a £12 benefit. That immediate shipping allowed me to grab this 1 hex instead of this 3 hex to get to the port, so let's add another £2 benefit. It arguably also gives me a future benefit if I take this edge minor 1 hex, but we'll deal with that later, as it is not certain that I will take it. And then there's a third starting worker. It is hard to quantify the value, but that worker gives me access to many extra cheap hexes and edge tiles that I may not get to given the advancement of Buchanan. I will just arbitrarily assign a £10 benefit for now. If I use the trading port in the future, then I can assign that as a benefit too, since I may not have been able to access that port without the third worker. So, total round 1 benefit is £24, but experience tells me it is higher, but just not quantifiable. Round 2. My immediate concern is Buchanan on the central lock. With 4 shipping, they can reach all 3 of these hexes, so my first move will be to claim this minor 1 hex to get to the lock, and then depending on where Buchanan plays, I will take either this 1 hex or this minor 1 hex. After that, I will get to the trading port to sell my cheese and work my way down to the basic port if it is still accessible. So much for the basic port. McEwen didn't use the reuse port for money, and now we see that it will be used to get the wool and grain needed for their contract. Brilliant move given the new contracts that are available on the board. McEwen is going to do quite well in this game, I think. Change of plans as I need to get to the trading port. And it's not certain I even want this minor 1 hex, because I do have an edge minor 1 hex, which will give me edge glory. I sold the cheese at an elevated price, but the minor 1 hex is gone. Again, not really a big problem, as I can take the edge tile now. I got to the central lock and trading port, and got several more edge tiles, so it is looking good at the moment. Once again, it is hard to determine the clan benefit, but my third worker got me to the trading port, so there's a £6 benefit from the port. The edge minor 1 hex was only available because of my cow placement in round 1 from advanced shipping. There is a minor 2 hex available as an alternative, so let's say it's a £1 benefit. And then I have an additional 2 edge tiles from my third starting worker, so we'll give that a value of £5, as that is the value that the upgrade port assigns to 3 points. So let's call it £12 of benefit this round. Remember, these so-called monetary benefits are more just a guide to help us understand the value of a clan. Getting exact numbers for Fergusson is not really possible, but it still helps to put a number to it for a rough comparison to other clans. Round 3. The round starts nicely for me, as I will begin by completing my contract and probably getting the 1 sheep, 1 cheese contract, as I expect McEwen to take the 1 bread, 1 whiskey contract. Otherwise, I will continue getting edge tiles and figure out how to connect all my settlements. A fairly quick round for me, where I got 4 more edge tiles and completed my contract. Clan benefit was £2 for an extra edge tile for my third starting worker. Round 4. I will connect these 2 settlement groups across the top, but I still need to work on connecting the bottom, possibly through here or here. Other than that, there are still some edge tiles available, and of course, completed contracts. I will start by taking the 4 sugarcane contract. There is the really nice 2 whiskey contract, but sugarcane is in very short supply, and I do not want to get left out of it. I got another 2 edge tiles, which will give me a whopping 27 glory this round, and began the move to connecting the southern settlement, so I think I did well. My queuing is sure looking strong though, with 6 completed contracts already. 1 more edge tile from my 3rd starting worker means a round benefit of £2.
As usual, we'll start round 5 by looking at the point distributions for each clan. Fergusson has 27 game points, 39 points for export goods, 26 points for basic and processed goods, 9 glory to come in round 5 for a total of 101 points. McEwen's numbers total 125 points, while Buchanan has 86 points. It looks like McEwen is quite far ahead, but remember, we can look at the total monetary value of goods and cash available to get a sense of how many points will be produced by each clan in this round. On that measure, Fergusson has £75 in cash and £144 in goods for a total of £219. For McEwen, if we assume all grain gets converted at £9 via contract hops, then their total is only £131. With Buchanan, let's also add £30 from their clan benefit, as they will take contracts at least twice. That makes a total of £160. So, the question is, can Fergusson make up 24 points from the extra £88 compared to McEwen?
The last thing we will look at is where the total number of export goods stand. If all contracts on the board are completed, we have 19 cotton, 21 tobacco, and 14 sugarcane. Moving on to the available contracts, here are the rankings for each at this stage in the game, which are based on the net cost per point. Unfortunately, Buchanan has first pick on contracts and will likely take these 2 outstanding contracts. That leaves this 4 cotton contract as the next best option for me, as I need cotton and it is the only other big contract with 4 export goods on the board, which is important because of the glory for this round. Let's see what happens. Wow, that was a surprise. Buchanan took 2 sugarcane contracts, which I guess is reasonable since they have no sugarcane and it is worth the most at the moment. Great news for me because now I can take the super awesome 4 cheese contract, which gives lots of points, money,
and upgrades.
I am very fortunate to get it. With my free upgrades, I took 1 shipping in preparation for connecting my settlements. Now I can just go on to this hex when I place my factory down for a building bonus. Not much left on the contract board. Here's another place where I see weak players make a possible mistake. The remaining contract is not particularly good as it gives a relatively small number of points given the cost to complete it. So why not just put the 4th factory down now? First, given the money and goods that I still have left, I can complete another 3 contracts, so I need this one as I can only get 2 building bonuses. Second, if I don't take it, someone else might later on, and then they get the points, and I do not. Contract completed. Time for the building bonus. Wow! I don't think I could have asked for better. Sugarcane is what I want, as it will be worth 5 points each. There are 4 of them in the contract, and I have the bread already. Contract completed. Here's hoping for 1 more contract. This will be tricky. I definitely don't want the sugarcane contracts, as that will make the sugarcane worth 3 each instead of 5. The tobacco will be worth 3 each, so the contract is worth a net 11 points. I need to make sure that I don't lose the settlement race by slaughtering the 2 cows, but I'm okay there if I slaughter these 2 cows. A 16-point victory, which shows how important it is to have a lot of goods and cash going into the last round, as in the end, I was able to easily overcome the 25-point deficit to McEwen. Total round benefit was £0 for a game total of £41.
I ended up with 71 glory points, which is a really big number, though not the highest I've gotten. Interestingly enough, my highest is 79, also with Fergusson. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video on Clan Fergusson, along with all the videos in the game commentary series. Feel free to leave comments below, and happy playing!